Okay, so what I'm going to try to do here is show you chapter 13, the last problem. And it's you do a whole bunch of stock transactions. You basically are doing everything you did in this chapter. And a lot of times I have students who can get through the journal entries fine, and then when they get down to the balance sheet at the bottom, they have some trouble. So I'm going to walk you through that. So I'm assuming that you've already done the transaction. So this problem is probably not going to match exactly what you have, but it should be close. The same type of thing. So remember that the balance sheet is showing you the balance in each of these accounts after these transactions have been done. So you've been affecting these accounts, common stock and preferred stock and treasury stock. You've been doing stuff to these accounts the whole time, putting stuff in, taking stuff out. So what it wants to know at the bottom is, okay, what's the balance in each of these accounts after you've done all these transactions? So the only way I can do it is to keep track as I go what's going on in each of these accounts. So we've got some stuff at the beginning of the problem, and then in the first problem they give us some more information. So for instance, the preferred stock, we can see that there is, let me see here. We can see, that's a little bit big. 1,000 shares outstanding. I'm not even going to try that one again. We've got 1,000 shares outstanding of the preferred stock. I mean, authorized. Sorry, this is authorized. And we've got, let me see if I can make that a little bit smaller because I'm never going to fit all this. Okay, let's try that one. 1,000 shares authorized and 500,000 shares of the common stock authorized. That's the most that they can do. Issued at par, and then the ending balance and retained earnings is this. We'll need that at the end. So the first thing we said is a cash dividend, and this is what it's telling us about the preferred stock, right? So the preferred stock is $105 par, and there are 900 shares outstanding. So if we're keeping track of our preferred stock, we know that there's 1,000 shares authorized. We know that there are 900 shares issued and outstanding, and that it's $105 par. Okay, so when we issue a cash dividend, that does not affect the stock, right? That affects our cash, but that does not affect the amount of stock we have issued or outstanding. The other thing it tells us is that there's a 20-cent per share dividend on the common stock. And so we know for the common stock, we have 500,000 shares authorized. That's how much we're allowed to put out there. We've got 80,000 shares issued and outstanding. That's how many's out there right now. Issued and outstanding. And it's $4 par common stock. Okay? And so we declared the dividends and then we paid the dividends, but that does not affect the amount of shares that are out there. So the common stock accounts have not been affected, just the payable and the cash. So on June 10th now, we did a stock split. So remember what that does. It doesn't affect the authorized, but it will, this is a 2-for-1. So the number of shares will be times 2 and the par will be divided by 2. So now, for the common stock, we still have 500,000 shares authorized. That actually can't change, so we don't even need to keep writing that. But we take the number of shares times 2, so now that's 160,000 shares issued and outstanding, and the par is divided by 2, so it's $2 par. So again, that doesn't change the total amount of stock that's each there. There's twice as many shares, but they're each half the size they were before. So that's what we've got going on now. Now we declared a stock dividend, a 50% stock dividend. So that's a large stock dividend, so we do that at par. So if there were 160,000, so there's a couple different ways you could do this. $160,000, right? Because this is in dollars, and it's $2 par, so that's 80,000 shares. Or you could say there were 160,000 shares times 50%, so that's, we issued 80,000 shares. So we issued 80,000 more shares. So now the total number of shares goes up to 240,000 issued and outstanding. So the 160 plus the 80,000 new shares we offered, there's now 240,000 shares out there, and they're still at the $2 par. So that's the effect of the stock split, and now we distributed it. So again, we already took care of that here. So we're at the 240 outstanding. Now we're purchasing some treasury stock. Okay, so when we purchase treasury stock, it's still issued. You can't unissue it once it's been issued, but it's no longer outstanding. Okay, outstanding. We bought it back. So in this case, we bought back 8,000 shares at $9. Okay, so that's the cost. That's the number that we will keep track of. So there are 8,000 shares. We subtract 8,000 shares from the outstanding. They're still issued. So we still have 240,000 shares issued, which is what we had up here. But 8,000 of those are no longer outstanding. So that means we have 232,000 shares outstanding. And we're still at $2 par. And now we have 8,000 shares of treasury stock at what we paid for it, which is $9. Okay, so that takes care of this one. So now we have, so here's our new totals: 240,000 shares issued, 232 outstanding, and 8,000 shares of treasury stock. Now we sold 4,000 of those. So now those are outstanding again. So we add 4,000 to the outstanding and subtract 4,000 from the treasury stock. So now our new totals, we still have 240,000 issued. We have the 232 plus 4,000. So we now have 236 outstanding. And our treasury stock goes down to 4,000. So we added 4,000 to the outstanding. 232 plus 4 gives us 236. We subtracted 4 from the treasury. So 8 minus 4, we've got 4. So that's our new totals. And now we sold, and for this part, you know, it's still at the $9 that we paid for. And these are still at $2 par. And so now we sold another 1,400 shares of that treasury stock back. So those are now outstanding again, because now they're out there, outstanding. That says now. Sorry, it's a little bit harder to write here in Word. So we will add 1,400 shares to the number of shares outstanding, because those are back out there, and we will subtract 1,400 from the treasury. So now our new totals issued. Oh, sorry. So we still have 240,000 issued. We have 236 plus 1,400. So we have 237, 4. Important to get the right number of zeros. So that's what's outstanding. And the 4,000 minus 1,400, we're down to 2,600 in treasury stock at the $9 that we originally paid for those. So these are my new totals. These are my totals after all these transactions. That's what's going into the balance sheet, okay? So if we look down here, well, the preferred stock didn't change, right? So the preferred stock is the 9,000. So this is how the balance sheet will always look. 5%, $105 par, 900 shares issued and outstanding, 1,000 shares authorized. So the 900 shares times the 105 is what gives me 94.5. Now we get to the common stock. It's down to $2 par, right? Because that was from the stock split. 500,000 shares authorized. And you go up here and we can see we've got 240 issued, 237 outstanding. So 240, 237. And so we take the 240 times the $2 par, and that's what gives us the dollar value over here. These two together, this one plus this one, equals 274 for the paid in capital. The retained earnings here, that was given to us in the original problem, if you go all the way back up to the top. And the treasury stock would be the 2,600, which is what we got right here, right? The 2,600. That looks like minuses. I'm taking those off. And we take that times the $9 cost, and that goes in as a negative. And so the 574 plus the retained earnings, so the paid in capital plus the retained earnings minus the treasury stock gives me the total stockholders' equity. So that's the only way for me to do is I just have to keep track kind of on the side there with what's going on with each account, and so that at the end I can sum up the summation or the end story after all of those transactions. I hope that helps.